everyone, welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. I am Bonnie Krebs, creator of Watercolor the Art Impressions Way, and this week's project is a really fun one. This looks like it would be really complicated, like it would take a lot of stamps, and actually it doesn't take that many. It's really fun to do these ones that look like they're really complicated, but we know how easy they really are. So here's what we're going to need. We're going to use from Project Series 9, we're going to use the little Italian villa, so the little Tuscan villa right here. In Easy Project C, so I don't actually have the front of this packaging, but I can show you this is the stone arch from Watercolor Easy Project C. So this one right here, we're going to use that. We're going to use in the flower set just the little filler flowers, so the daisy bunch. In the foliage set, the small grass and the vine. And then in the new foliage set, we're going to use both ivies, the right and left, and the tiny little foliage right here. We're going to use those. Okay, so let's get going. And we're going to start out by stamping the basic image, and that would be the stone arch right here. So we're going to ink that up, and actually we're going to ink it in two colors. So we're going to use the African Violet. I'm using my little stamp press right here. This is the Fiskars stamp press, and I'm going to ink that in two colors. So I'm using the number 86. Oops. And I'm just going to ink this whole thing up here, all the way across. This is the number 86, so the African Violet. And use the side of your marker when you're doing these large images. It's way easier to just use the side, and you can get that color on there a lot easier. Now I'm going to go back over it again, and I'm going to use the sepia. So this is the number 45 sepia, and I'm just going back over this whole thing again. And now I'm going to stamp it off because I don't want this to be too dark. I want this to be pretty light, so I'm going to stamp this off on a separate piece of paper here. So just like that. And you can see that's pretty dark. That's too dark for what we want to use it for. And actually, I could do it one more time, just lightly stamp it off again, just to make sure that I don't have it too dark. So now that I've got it stamped off twice, I'm ready to stamp it onto my watercolor paper. And I want to take some of this ink off. I've got a lot of foliage that I'm putting on top of this little stone arch. So I want to take some of this color off, especially around these columns here. I want to just remove some of this. You can use a baby wipe. Or you can use your finger like I do and get ink all over your hands. But just get some of this color off because we're going to stamp a lot on there and we don't want too much showing through. Okay, so now we're ready to stamp it on our watercolor paper. So really good firm pressure. Don't just mash it into your paper, and it should look like this. So we've got some light areas in here, and that's okay if we can still see a little ink showing through. That's okay because we're going to cover most of that up. But this is exactly what we want right here. So let's go in now and add the little structures. So you can see that it looks like there's two separate houses here. Actually, that's just one stamp. So what I've done is ink this section, and then I've inked this section. So we're going to use our little positioner. And I've actually stamped the whole thing on here. So if you used the positioner before, it's just a little L square like this, or a little L bar. And you just ink your stamp, place it into the corner, and stamp it right onto the little plastic shield. And now you've got that image. So we're going to start out with this little structure right here on the side. And we just need about this much. And just tuck it right under this second line right here. So just right about here where the chimney just touches the edge. And that's about all we need, just of this little structure. So we're going to put this back in here. And we're just going to ink that with the African Violet. So with the African Violet, just this section right here. So I'm just inking this up right here. I don't want to move that little L bar because I've got that positioned. And actually I want to take off some of this. I don't really want to see that chimney right there. We're going to take off some of this color, and then we're going to ink it again with the sepia on top. So the same thing that we did with the little stone arch. So we're going to put some of this color on now. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to stamp this off. We don't want that too dark. And now we're ready to place it inside the little L bar, just like that. And you can see we've just tucked it right inside there. So let's go on to the next one, and that is this little one in the middle. So take a baby wipe or your finger, make sure that you get this all cleaned off because we don't want any of this residue showing from this little structure here. So clean that off, make sure that it's dry, and then we're going to ink this little section here. So just this little part of the house right here. That's the cool thing about these stamps, is that they're so versatile and you can use sections, and that's part of the reason I do these projects too, is so that I can show you that you're not locked into just one way to use these things. There are so many other ways to use them. So I'm going to use two colors again, and I'm just inking the center, so that's just this little structure here in the middle. Okay, just like that. And I'm going to tuck this one. You can see where it is. It's tucked in right next to this one. And this time I'm going to use a little Post-it note to make sure that I get it in the right place. And I'm going to just cover the post so that I can stamp over the top. So I'm just covering this area so that I don't stamp over the top of this post. And now I can place this right where I want it to be. And we're not using this section, so we're only using this part of the house. And I think I'm going to tuck it right in here, just like this. So we can see a little bit of the side of the house, but not too much. And just up a little bit higher. So place our little positioner back in here. And the first thing we're going to do is stamp it off again. So we're going to stamp it off, make sure that we don't get it too dark. And then we'll place it in here, just like so. And we've got our second little structure tucked in here. So you can see how versatile these stamps are. This is just one little villa. We've created two little separate structures out of it. So fun to do that. Okay, so let's go on to the next step, and that would be to add water now to what we've just stamped. So let's get our little water here, dip your brush, and pinch it off. And you're going to start out by pulling the color out of the lines. So very carefully do that. This is going to be pretty light. And this is just the starting. So we're just going to start out by pulling the basic colors out. We don't have to get everything. We're going to do way more of this later. So just kind of start out with the basic areas. Just pull some of this color out of the lines, just like this. Just kind of follow these lines around. This is going to be pretty light. That's what we want. Same with these little houses. Just pull these out. This area back in here, this is going to be in the shadow. So it's going to be darker. So we can pull some of this color down. Same with this one over here. On this side, it's going to be darker. These little windows, those will be really dark. So we're going to add more color to these later. Right now we're just starting with the first step. And just drag this color out. You can see it's starting to look three-dimensional already. It's so fun. Okay, so let's keep going. We're gonna add our flowers and our vines now to the little stone arch. So we're gonna start out with the vine. That would be this one. We're gonna just ink this up. And especially in those areas where we kind of left it lighter, just kind of grow it up like this. Don't worry about getting it in the right place. It's way more important that you get it in there a bunch of times. It really is. So we want to just stamp this in, just kind of random. Up here too, we're going to see some of these vines coming down from the top. Like this. Some more of them over the top like this. And you can see I'm stamping this in here several times. That's really, really important that we do that. So we want to see that three-dimensional look. You can start with the foliage or you can start with the flowers too. Up to you. Okay, so we've got our foliage in here. Let's go ahead and add our flowers now to it. So I'm using the little daisy bunch here. I want to clean this off because I want to make sure when I'm using yellow and I'm starting with a lighter color that I get all this color off of the stamp because it's going to really muddy it. So really clean that off. So I use the baby wipe and now I'm just using my thumb to make sure that I get all of that off. So now I'm going to ink this little stamp and keep this in the lighter areas, you know, where there's not a lot of color, because you really don't want to muddy this yellow. When you add water to it, you want to see that it's really bright. This is good in here. Don't be afraid to do the little sections. So just ink a couple of these little areas, so maybe 2, and just do a small bloom, just like that. So let's clean this off now. So I'm using that same baby wipe. And I'm cleaning this all off. And now I'm going to use my pink, bright pink. It's actually called Iris Purple. And by the way, that was number 43, Brilliant Yellow. So this is Iris Purple, but it's really bright pink. So we're going to add some of this color in here now. Love these two colors together. So cute. So fun to do these projects. And they really don't take that long. It looks like it's so complicated, but really it's not. And once you start recognizing these little stamps, we use them over and over again. You start recognizing them because they're in everything, and you can pretty much just look at an image and see how it's put together after you've been using these. Okay, let's go on to the next step, and let's add some water now to this greenery and to these flowers. So we're going to dip our brush. We're going to start with a light. So that would be the yellow. Start with this and just dab. Pull this color out of the lines. You can take your time because all of this dries really quickly. And so that's okay. You can walk away, come back to it. You can pre-stamp these little projects and do them later, because they do dry right away, but that's because we're using the watercolor paper, so they'll dry, but the ink will stay on top, and when you add your water to it, so when you hit it with your wet brush, it activates that color again. So cool. So just keep dabbing, just dip your brush, just keep dabbing, jump it around. You're not painting anything, we're just dabbing. So now I've gone on to the green, jumping my brush around here, and you can do as much of this as you want. Maybe you just want a small vine at the top. It's okay. You can do that. The more you play with these, the more ideas that you get. So I'm blending and blending. The more you blend, the softer it gets. So you can just keep blending these colors out. Just pull them out and it'll just get softer and softer. If you really like that watered down watercolor look, it's so pretty. Let's go on now to these little winding foliages. And this one down here, just dab. It just changes so much. It doesn't look bad before you add the water to it. I mean, it's okay, but when you add the water to it, it just changes everything. It just looks like a little painting. I love that about these projects. Well, and I also love that you can do them in a few minutes. That's probably my favorite thing about them, is that you can do a project in just a few minutes, and it doesn't take a lot. Okay, so we've got our flowers on the top. We've got our little vines in. So let's go on and add our little trailing vines here, and that would be the ivies, so the right and the left. And we're just gonna kind of use the ends of these. You can use as much of these also as you want. They're just kind of little trailing vines that come out like this. You can bring them down also. And maybe we'll put another one up here. Let's do the other side. And put a few more up here. Like so. And then we'll just dip our brush and add water to these. Don't be afraid to go outside of the lines. You know, you've got color on your brush from dabbing at these, and you can just add a few more little areas of color, a few more little dots here and there. So you're not restricted to the area where the stamp is. I hope that made sense. Okay, so let's go on to the next step, and that would be to finish up our little structures. And so we're going to add some color now to the roof, and we're going to do that with the sepia. So we're putting a little of the sepia on the palette, just dipping our brush in water, and we're adding some color to the roofs. Don't color all the way to the top. We want to see that highlight on the top. It's really important. If you color everything in solid, it's just going to look flat. So leaving that little highlight really, really makes a difference. Let's just put some color in here where the little chimney is. Like so. And you can come back in here. Once that's dry, you can make another pass and get a little more color in here as well. So just like that. All right, so let's clean our brush off now, and let's get this little area in here where the little stream comes through. So we've got our structures in, so we're going to bring this little stream around like this. I'll show you how to do that. So easy. So we're going to start out with the green, and this is olive green that I'm using, but you can mix your greens. I tend to keep it really simple for people, but you can use different greens. It's perfectly fine. And we're going to add some water now to this olive green on the palette. So we want it pretty light. And we're going to just make a little, I guess, half circle just around here like this. And we're going to do the same around this little structure. And you can see our little stream is going to be coming through here. So let's add a little more color now to the background. So back in here, we're just going to add a little more green. And continue that out here because it's not just stuck in here between these two columns. I mean, it does continue out to the sides, so we want to see that. So let's just extend that little area out. And let's add our water in now. So I'm using Prussian blue. I just love this color, number 29, Prussian blue. It's a really warm blue, and I just love this color. So we want to make it really, really light. And we're going to start this little stream over here and just kind of bring it around. Just bring it down and around like this. Brush it in. Don't stress out about this. It doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, it's the idea of things. And we just want to show that there's just a little stream kind of meandering through this little village. So cute. And we can come back in and add a little darker color too if we want to. Let's take some of this color now and add some of this to these little structures. So under the roof, here where it's really shady, this would be the really shady side over here. So we want to add some of this color in, and we can do this in stages. So we'll let this dry a little bit, and then we'll add some more color in here. And I can see I forgot the roof on this one. So I want to get this little roof in here. And while that's all drying, let's take the fine tip of that number 29 Prussian blue and really color in these little windows. So really darken these. This is going to add a lot of dimension too. You can add another one up here if you want to. And let's add the little foliages in here now. So that would be this really tiny one. And I'm using the olive green again. And I'm just going to add some foliage in here. I love this little one. For these little images that are in the background, these little structures in the background, you really need these tiny, tiny little stamps. They're so great. So we've got that foliage in here. So let's add some water now to it. Just dab. I can add a little more color in here. It's okay to mix color. All right, so let's get our little flowers in here. So we're gonna go back to the little daisy bunch, but we're just inking a couple. So we don't want to ink this whole thing. It's too big. We don't need all of that. We just need a couple. So just 2. And we just want to get a little of this in here. Same over here. And just continue it over. Same with it over here. Just continue it over. Add water to that now. So just dip your brush and dab. It's so fun. It's going to mix in with the other colors, and that's okay. We don't mind that a bit. Just dab. And if you like that really watercolor look, so way more abstract, pull that color way out. Okay, let's add a little more water to these columns. I want to make sure we get all of this color out now. And they are rounded. They are rounded, so we want to see this darker color on the edge. So these are round structures. So we want to make sure we can see that dark edge. Under here, this would all be in the shadow. Okay, let's add our little grasses in here. So this is the little tiny grass from the foliage set. And we're just going to kind of extend it all the way over. And you can see how this perspective has changed because we're up on a hill actually looking down. So just tap this in. And you can bring this all the way over. So just like this. Add water to that. Pull that color up and out. You know, when you're doing the grasses, is the only time you're really using a brush stroke and you're actually pulling that color up and out. We can add a little color from the palette too, that's okay. Once you get your confidence, you're not afraid to do stuff like this. You know, the stamping part, that's just kind of the beginning. And you just kind of build your confidence and you can try all kinds of things. That's the fun part about it. Let's add just a little more water in here. And maybe a little darker back here. So it's kind of coming around the corner. That looks pretty good. Let's put some sky in. We're going to use that same blue. So the same Prussian blue. Really water this down and brush in a little of this blue in the background. I love this color. So cute. And but you can use any of your blues. You can use any. Don't overdo the sky. Just brush in a little color and kind of be done. Don't let it go clear off your page. Just tap it in. Make sure you start with it really, really light. You can always add more color to it. And just put in as much of this as you want, as dark as you want. So cute and fun. I'm And I think we are almost finished with this one. And it looks like it is almost finished. So one thing left to do, and that is to sign and date. And put that in a frame or put it on a card and give it to someone. You are going to make their day, and they will love that you created something like this for them. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you all next week.